Welcome to the Kingdom of Roses, a magical paradise where your ultimate wish can be granted if King Magnifico, the lone individual in the whole wide land of roses, deems you worthy enough to take the wish that you gave him, bring it down from his palace ceiling, and say, "Here, my child, here is your wish, and I am here to be the great leader and grant you this wish. And you will be showered with contentment, with happiness, with massive amounts of throbbing, explosive adulation, so much adulation that every citizen of Roses will know that your dream has been granted, because it will cover them, it will blanket the very land, and if it can happen to one person, it can happen to you." Wish was written and directed by Chris Buck. Ladies and gentlemen, the buck stops right here, because he did Frozen, Frozen 2, Electric, Elsa, Let It Go, Let It Go, Let It Go, Boogaloo, and also Tarzan. And boy, Tarzan deserved a whole lot more love than it got. What a terrific goddamn movie, terrific soundtrack, really dark if you think about it. Not just the soundtrack, but also the fact that the subject matter is pretty goddamn dark. And then you had Hercules, and you had Hunchback of Notre Dame, and going all the way back to Sleeping Beauty. Hell, even Pinocchio with the transformation into the back. The donkey scene, oh god, the donkey scene. It will haunt me till my dying days. That is probably one of the scariest goddamn moments in any kids animated movie in history. At least from Disney. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's some off-brand ones, but as far as mainstream, main studio stuff, that being said, there's no donkey transformations here. There is actually a cute little adorable a little goat named Valentino. Little Valentino. Voiced by the individual that also was the voice of the droid in Rogue One and Sonny in I, Robot. I think he has a type. That being said, he's a pretty good actor. But yeah, Chris Buck wasn't the only person that was involved in writing and directing this. There was also another co-director, Fawn something or other with the beginning last name with V. V is for Vic. Maybe shouldn't say that. But they've done art direction for other animated projects. And also you have Allison Moore, Jennifer Lee, and more. Missed opportunity for a pun there. Let's just roll with it. And this is celebrating 100 years of Disney and 1,000 years of Walt. Put him back in, folks. Also, it is about the character of Asha, a young, bright, headstrong individual voiced by Ariana DeBose, who has risen up tremendously, has been some good projects and keeps rising up, and credit to her. Hope she has a big goddamn career. And she's living with her grandfather and her mother, and unfortunately doesn't have her dad in her life anymore. We find out why a little bit later on. And she has that cute little goat, because everything needs a goddamn mascot in the Disneyland. And she is about to be part of a ceremony where maybe she gets an audience with the king, King Magnifico, voiced by Chris Pine, who's a tremendous actor, I do want to say. Chris Pine was in Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Queefs. I think I might have gotten that wrong, but let's just roll with it. That was a big budget movie that really should have done better than it did, and I didn't think I'd say that when I saw the trailers. That being said, Chris Pine has studied magic incessantly. I think that's how that word goes, but nevertheless, he has the power to grant wishes, and he takes wishes from people when they turn 18, and he puts them up into the goddamn observatory, seemingly, but it's all up high and everything. He's got all these wishes, and then he deems whoever is worthy, bring the wish down, grant it to them, and everything's good, and he's selective with it. Why is he selective with it? Well, Asha finds out a little bit later and says, wait a second. Why, I want my grandfather to have his wish granted, and the king kind of, is a little snide with her. And the queen's not sure why either. And things start to go really, really bizarre because he studied so much magic, he created this utopia, roses, all this crazy stuff is going on. Everything seems peaceful, but then it turns out that maybe some of the people that actually seem like they're good really aren't, and maybe some of the people that seem bad actually really aren't all that bad, because maybe they just are really depressed. Their wish hasn't been granted. Roses maybe isn't the island paradise that everybody thought it was. Also, Asha has some friends. She has the aforementioned little goat, and she also then makes a wish upon a star, hence the title, as if you didn't get the symbolism there. Wish upon a star. When you wish upon a star, no one else can tell you who you are, and I know the lyrics, but I forgot them because it is really late. But she wishes upon a star, and then that throws the kingdom into chaos because the king's wondering, no, only I may grant the wishes. Then things turn a little bit bizarre and everything, and yeah, it's filled with songs, as any Disney animated movie would be, and it's filmed with, it's filled with making sure that you stand up for yourself and that you rise up and you don't let gender roles identify and all this stuff, and everything's amalgamated into an 85-minute movie that is one of the blandest goddamn Disney movies I have seen. And holy goddamn shit, we have gone from Steamboat Mickey to Sleeping Beauty to all this stuff. Even the Rescuers Down Under that weren't all that great, in all honesty. Even Robin Hood. I used to go to church, Sunday school that is, when I was a kid, and I can hear the whistling in my sleep. Yeah, I can't watch all of Robin Hood because it gives me flashbacks to being in church. Fuck church, just want to say that. No churches in this movie. It's a safe, sanded off, all the edges are off and everything, and it's just a nice piece of gelatin that you get that can't possibly give you any allergies, no sweetening, no whatever, no artificial colors. It's just samey and bland and really not very good. Am I coming up with, ways to basically describe this movie isn't very good? Chris Pine is in this, as I mentioned before. Chris Pine is a tremendous actor. I'll tell you what he's not, and that's a singer. Victor Garber is in this, Natasha Rothwell, and Evan Peters, who, by the way, was the victim of abuse from Emma Roberts, and yet some people seem to think that Evan Peters was the one that was doing that. I don't know why. Angelique Cabrol, she's fine as the queen. She's fine in this. Ariana and Chris are pretty much the two main, characters that we focus on here. And then, we get a neat little mascot that people have seen in the trailers. It's this little star creature and everything. It's not as good as that star creature because the only hope is a sweet relief of death, and that's actually what I was wishing for watching this, because Wish is really bland and really not very good, and I'll get into why in spoilers, but $200 million for this. The animation, I'm sorry, looked like shit. None of the characters looked organic. Tangled, which, by the way, looked a little bit bizarre, was a little bit unusual, was goddamn tremendous, and had great humor in it. Great humor in it, that is. You have movies that have come out in the 70s that look better than this, that look more timeless than this. I know the idea is the meta commentary on what's going on, with Disney and how Disney has had all this stuff and following these same storylines and, girls staying up for themselves and, angry kings, queens, and automobiles and all that, and cute creatures and all that, and yes, a lot of callbacks. So many goddamn callbacks and so many Easter eggs. They're holding up a neon sign saying, hey, remember when we did this, only better, and people weren't wondering what the fuck and when we lost our mind. Yeah, that's basically Wish right there. It's just showing you, shining a light, shining a giant arrow, kind of like when the genie, had the thing said applause with the arrow pointing down. That's basically what they're doing. They're like saying, hey, we made a funny joke. Hey, we have a cool reference. Look at all these IPs. Look at all these characters we created. None of the characters here in this movie are going to be remembered as anything good. And that's a shame because the voice cast actually does pretty good. But you had Let It Go, Let It Go. You had songs from, Rescues Down Under, I can't really necessarily remember. Treasure Planet had music, but it didn't have necessarily songs that I would call tremendous. But I Can Go the Distance from Hercules. I mean, even Hunchback of Notre Dame, Aladdin, Lion King, all that stuff. Frozen, even Frozen and Frozen 2, all this stuff that had, yes, songs that got worked to death, mean to death and stuff like that. But no, it ends up being just something where, here are the names of the goddamn songs, by the way. I looked this up on Google. Welcome to Roses. And Ariana, she's fine. She's fine as a singer. And at least whoever else is singing for these people, it might not be the actual voice actors. Whoever does the singing, they do fine. Except if that's actually Chris Pine singing, then he needs to just stick to acting at all costs. This Wish, which is a song that was played in the trailer. And yeah, my wish is basically that they would make a better movie. I'm a star, shrieking pearl noises, as it were. Mia Goth is nowhere near this. Mourn the goddamn pity. But knowing what I know now, she is singing with some friends, singing all this, and then there's some other stuff. And $200 million for this, and I have seen animated movies that were made for half that were a lot better. This basically just ends up being so just mind-numbing and lacking in anything with bite or anything that you can at least appreciate as far as a callback to something. Any of the references, any of this stuff, it's just shoehorned in, and shoehorned in violently. And just blandly, like, it's just like, okay, here's this reference. Oh, here's this. Hey, remember this? And it's also 85 minutes, and it really drags. This somehow drags. The Super Mario Brothers movie that I had no expectations for turned out to actually be really goddamn tremendous. The critics have not been kind to this, and I have to side with the goddamn critics. If you have kids, the kids might enjoy this, but if you've shown your kids even a fraction of any of the good Disney movies, they're probably going to hate this or be bored by it. I was at a showing that had about 40 people or whatever, give or take, and none of the kids were really seeming to have a great time. I mean, they weren't, getting upset or anything, and that's just one screening, but some of the kids were even looking around like bored. The star creature that they show was, I mean, he kind of, it, I guess, kind of adorable. But nevertheless, I am going to get into spoilers. The spoilers will not take very long, but that's your warning. It's in theaters. By the way, I do want to say quickly, watching Kanto, that came out 2 years ago around this time, and it's much better. Life and Energy and Enthusiasm, one of the best films of 2021, one of the best animated films of this decade. Check that out. This is in theaters, so if you want to check it out. Wish for something else. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So yeah, let's just get to the meat of the matter. She tries to basically get her grandfather's wish and her mother's wish from this aforementioned observatory that is apparently up here in my ceiling. And the king basically snaps. He's like, no, you cannot do this. Only I have the power to grant these wishes. And this star creature shows up, gives the goat the power of speech. And also, because she wished upon a star, she was sitting on this tree, or staying on this tree, or singing on this tree. A tree that her dad and her used to sit on. Her dad, apparently, who was a giant version of Bruce Wayne, or possibly the character that Kevin Conroy voiced in Mulan. But we have that. We have animals singing at one point. Some deer singing. A bear named John, Big John, as it were. And we also have one guy in the Friends group that dreamed of becoming this great iconic soldier for the king. And after the king uses this book to turn himself bad and have all this magic and everything, and he creates a staff to harness the power of a star. He ends up basically going totally goddamn crazy. And the star, creatively named Star, they didn't even try with this. They did not even try. You don't need to make kid movies insulting like this. I mean, sweet Jesus. Kids are at least intelligent, at least some kids. Some kids are fucking idiots, but most kids at least understand, like, oh yeah, he's a star. Oh, look, he's called Star. Mommy, that's really stupid. Some kids might actually say that. Anyway, so there's this one point where Star actually gives Asha the power of magic. And there's actually a good part talking to the grandfather before that, where the grandfather doesn't want to know his wish because you forget the wish once you give it to somebody. You can't give up on your wish. Oh no, you gave it to this one guy that's absolutely goddamn insane. The queen realizes, shit, this really shouldn't be happening. But let me go along with this because my husband's absolutely batshit insane. I don't know how to stop him. The Friends, by the way, are completely ineffective. Completely ineffective. There's like this one gag that they use a few times where this girl just sneaks up out of nowhere. Oh, how does she keep doing that? There's a short little shit with a stupid bowl haircut that absolutely irritates the fuck out of me. He's one of the worst characters. And I'm not talking about the voice actor. I'm just talking about the character in general. It reminds me of the cell shading that pissed people off with Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, except that looked good. This just looks like it was created by bad AI, like, Baby's First Window Maker. Like, it doesn't seem choppy, but it also doesn't feel alive. None of this world feels alive, and that's the most irritating goddamn thing about it. But she has the power of magic. she leads the king on a chase or whatever to get away, so everybody else, they, too many pronouns, pal, sorry, Vince McMahon, can invade the observatory and release the the wishes and everything, and then everybody's all all poisoned because it turns out actually that it's just the friend that got poisoned and turned into the soldier that transforms out back from the king. And I knew that you were going to try this. And then the king manages to capture the star. No, don't capture Star, creatively named Star. I can't get over it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. It's stupid. And he's got all this, and he traps people with this green stuff and everything, and it's very Maleficent. Maleficent. Yeah, that's how it is. Now you deal with me, Fair Prince, and all the powers of hell. Believe me, the powers of hell would have been good to summon to drag this movie down. I don't know if it's coming across, but I really didn't enjoy Wish. I don't know if I hated this as much as the Little Mermaid remake, which was really apocalyptically bad, but that had an equal amount of money wasted on it and looks like shit. This also looks like shit. So basically, she's on the ceiling. She's Lionel Richie. No, she's on the goddamn roof. She's trying to stop the king, but Magnifico's like, no, you must give up on your hopes and dreams, and only I know what your hopes and dreams, only I know what's good enough for you and everything. And then she starts singing, and I will, make this wish, and then everybody else starts singing. It's a beautiful moment if anybody really gave a shit about any of these characters, and then they break through the power of friendship and hope and everything, and ha ha ha! And then the king is trapped in his own staff, and the queen, says, hang this in the dungeon. No, the dungeon smells. Ha 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 ha. And then the queen says, hey, wait a second. Girl, you want to fly? Why don't you go with Peter over here? Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? God, Chris Buck. Was his family held hostage until he was able to, complete this film in the blandest way possible? Probably should have left that lie in the drafts, given, recent events, but let's move on. Chris Buck didn't know or care about adding energy to this. That being said, so earlier Asha had all this, had that wand, but the wand got broken. And then Star shows up and says, hey, well, didn't say anything, because that would have made too much sense to actually have this creature talk. Says, reforms this or whatever, reforms, the deal. Like, well, no, I don't know why I can grant wishes and everything, and I can't do that, can I? I can't be someone's fairy godmother, can I? Yeah, that's what they fucking did. The fairy godmother. Bippity Boppity Snooze is what this really should have been called, because good goddamn Christ. Anyway, yeah, that's it. By the way, the grandfather's wish was that he just creates music and entertains people. At 100 years old. Man, is spry as fuck. Yeah, fairy godmother. All that just to get to that point. Okay. And that's it. And then they have a post-credit scene where the grandfather is playing the Disney theme. Boom, El Kabong will kill it. F. It's an F. I'm sorry. It's one of the worst films of the year. And that's saying a lot, because I've seen a lot of shit, but $200 million for this. I can forgive independent horror movies or independent dramas or just independent projects that cost very little, that are very shit. This had every single advantage and still somehow managed to be as bland as possible. F. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.